Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki, also did issue a statement yesterday concerning this and what comes with it. Because what are the protests about? Talking about basically one of the things is purely about the cost of living, essential goods, and that. So there you can see the demonstrations, and that tear gas has been lobbed in parts of the central business district, people scampering for their safety. That is the conversation that people want to have: security and safety. There has been assurances that this will not happen. And yesterday, the regional police commander, Adamson Bungei, simply said that not only Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition had made a request to have demonstrations taking place in the CBD, but there is also the group that is known as the Nairobi Business Community. And he said there will be no protests. Both requests for demonstrations or marches or picketing were denied, and for safety reasons. So a lot of areas have been cordoned off. The area around State House basically has been cordoned off, so access there is very restricted. The area around the G Gardens, which is usually busy, that has been also sealed off, so people cannot assemble there. And also the area around the Kenyatta International Convention Center, and this is along City Hall Way. You can see that it isn't as busy as you would normally find it to be at that point. So everyone is running after seeing that tear gas had been lobbed, as we see the trucks of police officers were there as they are being deployed to ensure that property is protected and safety is adhered to, and what has been declared as 2 illegal demonstrations planned by Regional Commander Adamson Bungei, then that would be ensured. Safety and of property, protection of lives, that is the core mandate of the police officers. So everyone is looking at ways in which to stay safe, others moving away from that area, because those who tried to assemble around the central business district, because this, as you can see from around City Hall Way, is not there. Business is closed. People have not reported to work. Traffic in Nairobi, I have to say, today was unusual. It looked like as usual what you have on a Sunday morning. Thika Road, which usually has tailbacks, did not have any tailbacks. Ngong Road, the same. Spoke with some of my colleagues who live, on the eastern side, past the eastern bypass. Took them half an hour, a trip that would normally take 45 minutes. So at the end of it all, everyone has got their concerns. School children, they were supposed to report today, and so schools have not, some of the parents, after the midterm break, those students have not yet gone back to school. So quite a lot of concerns, especially when it comes to safety of the people of Kenya, and the conversations are around that. And yet we are joined in studio by Gibson Gisore. He is a constitutional lawyer and also a political analyst. And let me just start with Gibson. I'm sure with this morning coming into town, what was your, the impression was these roads are clear. People have got their concerns for safety, which I would have to say a lot of people, they're worried about how it would all end up.
Yes. This morning is rather unusual, as you've said, Wahome. The reason being Kenyans are apprehensive. You know what Mandamano was born previously, and the Kenyans have got to be apprehensive because you don't want to go with your vehicle in town so that it gets stoned. You don't want to lose your life if worst comes to worst. You don't want to deal with the police and their batons landing on you. So those are some of the things which Kenyans fear. For business people, you don't want to open your kiosk and then they come in and take the water. You remember, I think one of the clips I saw on social media, people of Mandamano were actually warning people that if you open your shop and you're selling water, let's hope that the water will be for supplying the demonstrators. And nobody will want to open business to supply demonstrators with water or soda or whatever it is that they're selling. So for that reason, people have have been warned, and they feel that it's for their own safety and for the safety of their business that they be apprehensive, and they lock themselves in their homes. And kids were supposed to go to school, as you have indicated.
Yes.
Too. Actually, the school where my kid goes, the person who transports them to school actually said he's not releasing his vehicle to take kids to school. The teacher herself has just told us that there was very low turnout, and sorry that so he has sent assignments for kids to do from home. So these are extraordinary times which Kenyans are trying to find a way to keep safe, because you don't want to be caught in the middle of the milieu, or you don't want your kid to be caught in this milieu of demonstrations. I've just been in town, and I've already seen people already running in the streets with the police. The police have already arrested some few people at the Central Police Station. So it means it's starting. It's starting, and as Kenyans, we need to actually, or the government rather, needs to find a way of trying to appeal to Kenyans not to do this, so that we can be able to solve this problem. We come to the table and sort it out once for all.
Well, I'll be coming to about solving this and some of the things that have been said. But we need to look back at what has been happening in the past week.
Yes.
The last 7 days. The political leadership from different parts of the country have been saying, look, going head on with this is not the way to go. We saw the leadership from Makueni, Kitui, and Machakos speak last week, and the person who read the statement is Senator David Musila, from Senator for Kitui County. Yeah. We've seen the leadership from Western Kenya speak about the same. How much dialogue within what would have been, people who are part of the larger Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition, the parties that form it? How much more dialogue can they have such that some of these things could be averted?
See, the kind of dialogues, those are pockets of people airing their concerns from wherever it is that they are. The kind of dialogue we need, Wahome, in this particular case is an inclusive dialogue. And an inclusive dialogue which involves everybody, every stakeholder. I've seen the clergy also make their statements. I've seen the human rights people make their statements. But what we need is actually the political bigwigs of each of the sides to actually come together and say, whatever the problem is, we can sort it. And if we decide to go in a process where we sit down and discuss the key issues, then we can be able to find our way forward. The problem is, I think from the government side, they are not comfortable engaging the opposition, because the opposition, according to them, wants to take advantage and ask for a handshake, or to also demand that they select their own IBC. So if some of these issues can be separated from the real issues whereby we are dealing with Kenyans who are feeling like their kids are not able to go to school, who are feeling like they cannot be able to put a meal on the table, then I think we can be able to find our way forward. But if we keep pointing fingers, saying that you people want to choose the IBC for 2027, 2027 is very far. If we can be able to put that aside and concentrate on what is on the table right now, which is people are dying, people out of hunger, kids are not going to school, JSS does not have teachers, does not have books in school. These are some of the critical issues which need to be addressed according to Mwananchi. But now I think there's an issue whereby you find that the government people are only allocating or arrogating the demonstration to Raila Odinga, which is really not the issue. Raila is just a person who was just taken advantage, and he wants to speak his piece in the process of the angry Kenyans, and that's what he's taking advantage of. Still, even if Raila could not have spoken, Kenyans have been complaining right from the word go that we were told that once the Bible comes down, the food prices will go down. They have not seen that. So that is what they are asking. What happened? It's 6 months into the new government. Can we see some changes? That's what they are asking. So, and Raila is coming in also with his own fair share of issues, saying now, as a politician, I felt I was shortchanged, opened the serve and such things, which I think they are really non-issues for us. What we need to look at is the Kenyans complaining, the legitimate claims of Kenyans.
Well, it's been a tough the last 3 months have been tough.
Yes.
We have to admit, for small businesses.
Very,
very tough.
very tough.
And we'll be coming to that, and also issues, for example, the issues is raising about, the reconstitution of the IBC, because at the moment, we don't have a commission.
Yes.
It's rather interesting. But now, let's move over to Kisumu. Pictures I had seen earlier indicated that Kisumu was ghost town, just like Nairobi, but looks like there's some activity coming up. Weekly for Catch. Give us an update.
As a way to transfer banking risk away from taxpayers and on.
Thank you so much, and a very good morning to you, Daniel Wahome, back in Nairobi. Of course, here in the lakeside county, or rather city of Kisumu, actually, the situation is not different from that in Nairobi. You can see behind me here, there is some sort of disorderly. The situation here is not normal. This is not the situation that we are used to in everyday situation here in Kisumu. I don't know if my colleague Martin Kivuti can basically zoom deep behind me there. You can see that is a roundabout. That is Kisumu Boys roundabout. That is the intersection point between Nairobi Road and, of course, the other way, intersection point between Nairobi Road and, of course, the Kisumu Kakamega Highway there. You can see there is a tire that has been lit there, and a crowd is still surging there. Earlier on in the morning, we had took a visit actually to Kondele roundabout. That is usually the epicenter every time there is some sort of demonstrations here in Kisumu. And what we saw was just crowds building up since 7 in the morning, and of course when it got about 10 in the morning, that crowd started surging from Kondele all through to the CBD here, like it has been for the last 1 week since Azimio leader Raila Odinga declared mass action in the country there. What has been happening is that crowd has been surging from Kondele roundabout all through using that Kakamega Kisumu highway to that roundabout that you can basically see from which that smoke is emanating. And of course that crowd has been diverted. Actually the crowd has been diverted to a place called Juakali. That is also another point of gathering every time there is any sort of protest or other demonstrations here in the lakeside county of, or rather city of Kisumu. What has been happening in the last 1 week is that crowd has been charging from Kondele all through to the county commissioner's office. County commissioner's office is located just adjacently to the state lodge there, and usually by the state lodge there is a barricade by the police, by the security personnel there, but today the barricade has been moved a little bit closer to the state lodge. That vicinity has been narrowed. I tried to inquire why, but then the police, or rather the security personnel there, did not speak to us. So far there hasn't been any, the police haven't been deployed to the streets there. Even in the morning when we went to Kondele, actually the crowds were gathering there. Actually they started barricading that road from Kakamega coming through to Kisumu, but the police did not show up. Remember, Kondele police station is just a stone throw away from that roundabout, but then up to now they have not gone to the streets. In what I believe that they are trying actually to avert any sort of run-ins with the crowds here. I think they are basically giving the protestants here ample time actually maybe to showcase or rather to air out their views, because they may be out of fear that in case they engage them, then the demonstration here could turn chaotic. Right now, the crowd has gone to that place I've said called Juakali. From Juakali, we understand they will be marching to the county commissioner's office, and definitely they will try to access the state lodge there. But then, of course, there are the police officers with their barricade there that I believe will try to block them from accessing that facility, being a protected area. Actually, we also conducted a spot check in various schools surrounding the city center here, and what we have seen is that, remember, for the secondary schools it is the halftime break. Some were to report today, some are reporting tomorrow, but that transportation issue is not going on, because of course we also visited the bus station there. There's little activity, or if there is any, it is very little. People are not moving actually, and that's the reason the learners are not going back to school today. For the primary schools, we visited Zaverian primary and junior secondary. We spoke with the deputy head teacher there. He told us about there are a total of about 2,000 learners registered there, but only about 100 are reported today. But although there are teachers there waiting for learners, but they did not show up in what I believe is a result of the fear of being attacked by those demonstrating. Like I can see behind me, in that is Kisumu Boys roundabout, like I've indicated, the intersection point between the Nairobi Road and Kisumu Kakamega Highway there. Crowd still gathering there, and we're just monitoring the situation as to what is next for that crowd that is there. I can see there is a electricity pole being used to block the road there. I don't know if you can be able to see through that zoom. In that there will not be any vehicle trying to move here, and it's only the motorcycles actually roaming around, and people actually mounting sufurias and dishes, of course, on their heads to indicate the dire economic situation in the country. Remember, one of the issues being advocated for by the opposition is the high cost of living that they want the government to address, apart from the electoral justice that they are seeking. There are some of the issues that have resulted into these people taking to the streets actually to push the government to act in line with the Azimio demands, and of course we will be monitoring every situation here. I can see still some big smoke emanating from the tires being lit right in that back roundabout, but so far there hasn't been any sort of chaotic experience here. It has been all peaceful, although the businesses, of course, on standstill. Very early in the morning, there were a few businesses opening, especially around Oginga Odinga streets. That is where major shops are located. Yeah, but early in the morning, some of them had opened, but for now they have closed, of course, out of fear of being attacked. And but we will be monitoring the situation progressively throughout the day, and of course we'll bring to you every live update. I don't know. Let me just try to see if I can be able to speak with any of them. I don't know if they will be able to speak to us. Nataka moja tu. Moja tu. Labda ukiweza tueleza unaitwa nani na unafanyanga kazi gani siku ya kawaida?
Mimi naitwa Kevin Numa Maiko. Mimi nafanya biashara wa vitunguu nauza pale Kibuye, lakini kwa sasa hivi tuko maandamano kwa sababu tunasikia vibaya kwa uchumi. Kwa kila kitu ya uchumi ziko mbaya, lakini tunaomba Mwenyezi Mungu Ruto afungue sava ili ukue ukweli. Asipofungua maandamano itakuwa kama kawaida. Hiyo ndio maneno ambapo ninayo.
Asubuhi nimeona baadhi ya maduka yalikuwa yameweza kufunguliwa katikati mwa jiji la Kisumu. Umesema unafanya kazi yako pale Kibuye. Uliweza kufungua kazi leo?
Nimefungua kazi kidogo, baada kidogo nikisikia mayoe kitoka kule Kondele, nami pia nikajitokeleza, nikafunga kibanda, nikaingia kwa barabara. Ndio kwa sasa hivi niko barabarani ili tuandamane tupate haki yetu wa kawaida.
Kutoka hapa pale tulipo sasa utakuwa unaelekea wapi kama
Sasa hapa hivi niko roundabout ya Kisumu Boys, lakini tunataka tuende pale White House ili tufike hapo. Tunataka ukweli yetu ili tuandamane na watu wengine.
Lakini pale unajua ni eneo ambalo limelindwa kabisa, haitajiki watu wahudhuria pale.
Hata kama imelindwa, lakini sheria inaruhusu sisi kuandamana ili mahali penye tunahitaji. Sheria ndio imeturuhusu tunafanya chenye tunahitaka. Hakuna mtu yoyote ambapo tunaweza kukataza tuingie pale ambapo tunahitaka kwenda. Lazima tutafika kituo ya White House, tuongee hapo, tukae chini, tusumulize kama wananchi.
Mweza kushauriwa kwamba hata mnapoandamana muhakikishe kwamba amani inadumu. Mko tayari kudumisha amani?
Amani ipo popote ambapo tuko, hatuna shida lolote, tuko amani sana. Hatuna vita, tuko peace. Kila watu tunaambana kwa nyenyekevu.
Sawa, acha nizungumze na huyu mama pia tuweze kueleza. Angalia pale, utueleze majina yako. Wewe ulifika ukusa ngapi na unafanya kazi gani kila siku?
Mimi ni mtu wa kuuza manguo na tunaandamana ya ukweli na haki ya polepole.
Acha azungumze mama.
Tunaongea maandamano ya ukweli na haki. Na tutaki kelele, hatutaki vita, ni polepole. Jo, tunasikia njaa. Watoto wetu wanalala njaa. Yaani hatuna chochote. Sasa Ruto lazima atoke aende. Ruto must go.
Sawa, labda wa mwisho tu wewe songea kando baba, simame hapa. Utazame pale utueleze unaitwa nani, kila siku unafanya nini kujichumia riziki?
Sasa mimi naitwa Bozo, mimi ni mfanyabiashara mambo na transport sector. Kwanza nataka kumwambia William Ruto, leo tunakutoka kwenye ikulu ili
imefika. Daniel, that is the situation behind me here. I will hand this.
Well, thank you very much, Weekly, for Catch Out in Kisumu. And, you know, those are the people who are there. And you can see that the protesters, they are out there. And there is already a tire that's been lit up. And so there is a lot of activity. And more about what's going on, let's now come back to Nairobi and join Beatrice Gatonye, who is in the Central Business District of Nairobi. And Beatrice, give us an update on the situation.
Thank you very much, Daniel Wahome in studio. I am at Nairobi CBD. Na hasa niko katika barabara ya City Hallway ili niweze kukuelezea mtazamaji uweze kuelewa ni eneo lipi hili. Upande huu ni jengo la City Hall. Alafu kisha upande huu mwingine ni jengo la KICC. Alafu kando yake kuna jengo la Supreme Court ama bunge la yani koti ya upeo. Mtazamaji, hapa ndipo waandamanaji tangia mwendo wa asubuhi wanajaribu kufika katika eneo hili. Hii ni kufuatia agizo la kiongozi wa Azimio la Umoja Raila Odinga, ambaye aliweza kuitisha maandamano haya ili kuweza kuishinikiza serikali kupunguza gharama ya juu ya maisha, miongoni mwa matakwa mengine ambayo Azimio la Umoja lingependa serikali hii iweze kutimiza. Kama tujuavyo, kiongozi huyu wa Azimio Raila Odinga hajaweza kuitambua serikali ya William Ruto kama serikali halali, na haya ni kulingana na yale ambayo amekuwa akisema kwamba hatambui serikali hii. Kando na hayo pia amekuwa akishinikiza serikali kupunguza gharama ya juu ya maisha. Kando na hayo pia anaweza kusema ama aliweza kuashiria kwamba hajaweza kukubaliana na uamuzi uliotolewa na mahakama ya upeo kufuatia uchaguzi wa urais wa mwaka wa 2022, na akasema kwamba ataweza kutafuta njia mbadala za kuweza kutafuta haki. Na mtazamaji, kwa sasa kile ambacho ningeweza kukueleza ni kwamba nawaona upande huu sijui ni akina nani kwa sababu niko kwa umbali kidogo, lakini naona maafisa wa polisi wakiandamana na watu kadha wa kadha ambao sielewi ni akina nani, lakini wacha nijaribu kukaribia eneo hilo ili niweze kukueleza. Lakini eneo hili mtazamaji limekuwa eneo lenye shughuli nyingi kati ya polisi na waandamanaji ambao wamekuwa wakijaribu kufika eneo hili la KICC, ambapo kiongozi wa Azimio alisema kwamba angependa kukutana na waandamanaji. Na mtazamaji, namuona mbunge wa Rarieda pamoja na viongozi wengine wa Azimio ambao wameweza kufika hapa. Viongozi mbalimbali wa bunge ambao wanaegemea mrengo wa Azimio ambao wameweza kufika hapa, na sasa hivi wanatupiwa vitoza machozi na polisi ambao na ni viongozi ambao wangependa ama ambao wananuia kuongoza maandamano haya. Namuona Babu Owino miongoni mwa viongozi wengine wa Azimio ambao wameweza kufika hapa. Namuona seneta wa Nairobi pamoja na viongozi wengine wa Azimio. Sasa hivi polisi wanarusha vitoza machozi kuwatawanya viongozi hawa ambao walikuwa wananuia kufika kukutana na waandamanaji ili kuweza kuwaongoza kufika katika eneo la KICC. Mtazamaji, eneo ambalo kiongozi wa Azimio Raila Odinga anatarajiwa kufika ili kuwaelekeza waandamanaji katika ama kuweza kuwapa hatua nyinginezo. Namuona seneta wa Nairobi hapa ambaye amefika pamoja na viongozi wengine. Ningeomba tukaribie na nione kama labda angeweza kusema moja ama mawili kuhusiana na swala hili. Seneta,
nipe dakika mbili nipoe.
Na mtazamaji,
siku hizi ukitembea unapigwa tia gas hii Kenya kweli?
Na hii bunduki hii inabebwa na bagi, tumekataa maneno ya bunduki.
Yaani unatembea unapigwa tia gas hii Kenya yetu? Poleni. Poleni.
Tuko kazi.
Na pole sababu unajua machozi zinarushwa kule na umedhirika kidogo. We hope that she gets better. You've seen Senator Edwin Sifuna simply ask for 2 minutes to recover from the effects of the tear gas that has been lobbed. And remember that yesterday, the Nairobi Regional Police boss, Adenson Bongei, had said that these protests were illegal. And the communication was clear from not just the Azimio side, but also what is the group that is known as the Nairobi Business Community. So both had made requests to him that they hold demonstrations here, and they said that, and the Nairobi police boss said that this is not possible. So that is in the Central Business District of Nairobi on City Hall Way. So there are some of the MPs, and they've had tear gas lobbed. And let's go back to Beatrice Gatonye, who can give us an update.
Ambao wamekuwa wakiwasubiri katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi tangia mwendo wa asubuhi. Lakini mtazamaji, cha kuzingatiwa ni kwamba waandamanaji hao hawajaweza kufika hapa, hasa katika jengo la KICC ambapo viongozi hawa wanatarajiwa kufika. Naomba mtazamaji niendelee kukupa picha kwa sababu hapa ya tear gas imekuwa kwa wingi. Lakini viongozi hawa mtazamaji wanasema hawatatishika na wataendelea na maandamano yaliyoandaliwa siku ya leo na kiongozi wa Azimio Raila Odinga. Hivyo basi sisi tutakuwa hapa kuhakikisha kwamba tunafuatilia jinsi matukio yatakavyokuwa yakiendelea. Lakini cha msingi ni kwamba maafisa wa polisi, vikosi vya polisi wako katika eneo hili kuhakikisha kwamba waandamanaji hawa hawafiki katika eneo hili. Ni yapi ambayo yatatokea hapo baadaye tutakuwa tukikueleza. Lakini sisi tuko hapa kuhakikisha kwamba tunakuletea taarifa hizo kwa kina. Kumbuka kwamba mtazamaji, baadhi ya picha ambazo uliweza kutazama hapo awali, waandamanaji walikuwa wamejipanga vilivyo kutokea upande huu, wakati ambapo maafisa wa polisi waliwasukuma hawakuweza kufika hapa, wakaenda upande ule mwingine. Hivyo basi wamekuwa wakitumia njia tofauti kujaribu kuona kana kwamba wataweza kufika katika jengo la KICC ambapo wanastahili kuwa wakikutana na kiongozi wao ili aweze kuwahutubia na kuwapa njia ama kuwapa mwelekeo kuhusiana na maandamano ya siku ya leo. Je, yataweza kufaulu? Ni swala ambalo tutakuwa tukifuatilia kwa siku nzima kuona ni yapi ambayo yatakuwa yakiendelea. Lakini kwa sasa kile ambacho nitakueleza hapa jijini Nairobi, baadhi ya barabara zimeweza kufungwa na zimefungwa na maafisa wa polisi ili kuweza kuwazuia waandamanaji kuweza kuendelea na maandamano ya siku ya leo. Kumbuka hapo jana kamanda wa polisi jijini Nairobi Bungei aliweza kusema maandamano haya si halali kwa sababu hayajafuata sheria kama jinsi ambavyo inastahili. Hivyo basi maafisa wa polisi wakaweza kuulizwa kuhakikisha kwamba wanalinda usalama na mali ya Wakenya. Na tukiangalia hata mahali ambapo nimesimama kwa sasa mtazamaji, picha nyingi ama duka nyingi zimeweza kufungwa. Wanabiashara waliweza kufunga ama wameweza kufunga maduka yao. Hivyo basi hakuna shughuli nyingi ambazo zinaendelea katikati mwa jiji kwa sasa, isipokuwa sasa ni kama mchezo wa panya na paka kati ya waandamanaji na polisi ambao wanahakikisha kwamba waandamanaji hawa hawaendelei na maandamano haya. Mtazamaji, nitaendelea kukupa picha tu za jinsi ambavyo hali ilivyo hapa katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi. Mimi naitwa Beatrice Gatonye na niko hapa katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi na nitakuwa nikikuletea matukio mbashara kutoka katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi.
Very much. Beatrice Gatonye, she is in the Central Business District of Nairobi, and keeping up with that, and the coughing is because tear gas was lobbed and she's been affected, so amwambia pole. And we are going to get reports of what's happening also in Mombasa, and we've heard from Wycliffe Okech there, and something that's coming through, it's all that everyone's talking about is And this is a quick reference. First, let me just make a reference to a statement that was released by the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki, and it's all about Article 37. So the government reiterates its commitment to respect, protect, and promote all fundamental rights, freedoms guaranteed under the Constitution. Now, in doing so, security agencies shall respect Article 37 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right of every person peaceably and unarmed to assemble, demonstrate, picket, and to present petitions to public authorities, because that's what we have been told is going to be the case. But the same Constitution limits the enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms to ensure the protection of rights and freedoms of others. Basically saying is that where, for example, my guest in studio today is Gibson Gisore, is that where his rights and freedoms start, mine end there, and vice versa. So they've said that if those who are legally assembled, they will be protected, but those who turn this and do not follow the spirit of Article 37, then they will face the full wrath of the law. Just put the context of this article, Gibson.
What the CS is saying is very true, because the context of what we have seen previously with this Mandamano is that people have ended up looting people's property. We have ended up seeing people lose lives. We've ended up people being beaten up. The whole essence is one peaceful Mandamano whereby I respect you, you respect me, I have a right to demonstrate, I have a right to picket, then let me do it in the most civil way possible so that I do not affect anybody else's right. That is what Article 37 says. But at the point where I have to be apprehensive that I'm not sure what you're going to throw a stone at my business or going to throw a stone at my vehicle, then you are already affecting my rights. In the enjoyment of your rights, you are affecting my rights, and that cannot be entertained. A government cannot be able to entertain that. It has to be able to guard property and life.
And also now the other one that the Nairobi Regional Police boss, Adamson Bungei, said is the Public Order Act of 2012 is what may informed his decision. Just put a context to that.
He did talk about the order on the aspect of protected places. That is because the demonstrators were saying that they want to go and present a petition at State House.
Harambe or even Harambe House.
Or even Harambe, wherever the president will be. I don't know whether they will be looking for him around. Those are some, the presidents are protected person, State House is a protected, Harambe House is a protected.
Actually, that area has got so many protected areas because it's also the National Treasury building.
Yes. So what they're saying, if you're demonstrating, demonstrate to other places, but do not be able to interfere with government business, especially with the government officials who are doing this work. If you go to State House, it's a protected area. We are bound to protect it. So the Public Order Act demands that we give the utmost security to these places, unless we want to be deemed to have failed, which you don't want to fail, ensure that whatever demonstration you're putting across does not affect through these places. So that is what he's communicating on the other hand. On the other hand, he's saying that the demonstrators give notice because the Constitution does allow the demonstrators to give prior notice to the police, which indeed they did. And then there's another counter group which we are hearing, which is Nairobi business people, who have also given another notice on the same. So likely, because there's going to be a likelihood of a crashing of these two groups, then he said that both Mandamanos will have to be stopped and they have been declared illegal because of they're going to be likely to be a crashing of these two groups. So in the event that they do crash, then a lot of people are going to be hurt, a lot of businesses are going to be affected. So he's saying in light of the Public Order Act, then it's peaceable, it's actually wise to actually stop all the demonstrations so that we can have sobriety and we can have peace within the CBD and protect businesses and life.
And taking a look at, because we've seen what people are, what some of the people are saying are from Kisumu, some are apprehensive, others just want to be a part of it. But overall, what's there's the conversation for most of these little traders. People are getting, we've seen small businesses close a lot in the last 3 months.
Yes.
Some of the people who've been trading in essential goods, others have said, let me just leave the town life and go live in the village. How well do you find a balance between this, where you go hold the demonstrations, but at the same time get an economy running?
It's difficult. It's a difficult situation, especially for government and even for Kenyans. And that's part of the reason we're having this maandamano. People are demonstrating because making ends meet has become very difficult for Kenyans. Much as Kenyans are quiet, they're struggling inside, or there's a fire burning inside because you're not sure whether you're going to be able to put meal on the table for in the evening. Because let's not talk of morning and lunch, because Kenyans do not eat lunch and breakfast. They just want to ensure that before they sleep, they eat. So those are some of the concerns. People have had to close to go back to the village because the economy is really taken a hit. We're just from an election. Economy had not been doing well from 2017. The fuel prices are up. We have the Ukraine war. We have, and that's why these issues are not only limited to Kenya. Right now in South Africa, I think the South African demonstration has already kicked off in high gear. Malema seems to be a very good organizer. Actually, people are saying between Baba and Malema, seems Malema has taken the points today.
Actually, it's a very odd day because there's, I wouldn't say, I mean, it's rather unusual that in South Africa, in Nigeria,
they are demonstrating elections. Tunisia, they are demonstrating against the government. And you remember, the Arab Spring started in Tunisia.
Yes.
With the immolation of one of the protesters.
I'll never forget that name, Bouaziz.
Yes, Bouaziz. You know, these are some of the characteristics which we need to start questioning as the leadership of Africa, whether this is the right way to go, or we start listening to our people. In Nigeria, it's about elections. In Kenya, it's partly because of elections and, of course, the economy. In South Africa, it's purely because of the economy and high-handedness of government, and in Tunisia, the same.
Actually, so they're finding it strange that
the issues seem
power
to be
cuts are a huge thing in South Africa.
Yes, these things seem to be having some connection. So it's about time that the leadership of the countries on Africa stood up and address the issues which affect Mwananchi. And for the longest time, you find that, especially the government in South Africa, I've been to South Africa a couple of times, you know, they have not started now. They started with the fees must fall, where the black students felt like they were being given the short end of the stick. And this is what has been growing up, and then the xenophobia and the likes. You know, these are issues around economy. If we can be able to sort some of these issues, we can be able to help our people. Governments seem to be aloof, of the issues which are affecting Kenyans or Africans at large. If we can be able to have a governments which can be able to be responsive, which immediately there is an issue, they go and address the issue according to what the Mwananchi expects, not according to what they want to achieve. Because that's where the problem, I think, lies. In Nigeria, the election issue, of course, is a contested issue. It was almost, the president won by very few votes. So there's a huge majority of people who did not vote for him, so that is expected. And in Tunisia, of course, they have been having issues since the last spring demonstration. So these are some of the things which we need to start looking at. Of course, climate change affecting everything, and the economy is not doing well. These are some of the issues which countries need to sit out and discuss.
Well, and you talk about that. Well, it's strange this weekend of protests. I'm just trying to connect it because it's strange that even yesterday in Israel they were protesting.
Yes.
And it was about protecting the Supreme Court, protecting the judiciary. So it's strange what is happening. But let's now come and talk about the cost of living. And it's the two schools of thought. I know in July last year, immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta, his administration announced that there was going to be a subsidy that was going to be channeled through millers. And this is to cushion the public against the high cost of unga, because Kenya's economy gets into a little bit of a shock anytime there are elections, a lot of uncertainties.
Yes.
So here we are, but the subsidy was removed, and the school of thought then is from the current administration. It's not about consumption, it's about production. Where do you put that balance?
I think from where I come from, Wahome, is the fact that Kenya, we've made a lot of mistakes previously which are making us to be where we are. Remember, by the time Kibaki was leaving, Galana Kulalu was a big issue where we were supposed to have set it up, and by now production would be up and running.
Actually, it shocked the Israeli ambassador. I think he said he felt like he had failed.
He had failed, actually. So there was meant to be a dam to be built there to do the irrigation, but that dam has never come up. So that, coupled with a couple of other decisions, political decisions, which have meant our country to take a hit. You realize that Kenya is only 16% fertile, so we can only, and we have a huge population, we only can be able to survive on irrigation. We cannot be able to rely on rain. So if we can be able to put those programs in place and make their decisions that we need to do proper irrigation to feed the Kenyan people, then in the near future, in 2030 or in 2035, we will not be having this problem. This issue was supposed to be handled during Kibaki's time. He started off the project. Uhuru government comes in, they do nothing. They abandon the project. So that is likely to cost us 10 or so years down. So we are suffering from something which has been a problem which has not been addressed from before. If we were to handle some of these issues, then we could be better off now. You see, there's a problem in terms of execution of government projects in this country, and this is really costing us. You go to our neighboring countries, like during the COVID era, Magufuli, during his first term, he launched groundbreaking projects, and Tanzania is comfortable. You go to Ethiopia, they did the same. Then, much as they are in war, they're not complaining of hunger, because we also share the same climate with them. It's because the government has really invested enough in irrigation schemes of rice and other food crops which they eat. They are now actually exporting. So some of these decisions which our government takes end up costing us. And I'm also seeing this government also fall into the same trap, because I'm not seeing a very concrete plan. Much as they're saying they're going to do 1,000 dams, none has started, or they have not launched any. If they were to do this early enough, then we can be sure in the next 4 or 5 years, we could be able to have these dams, and the irrigations will be happening, and there will be enough food crop for the country.
Actually, last week with the visit of the Italian president,
that was commendable. I hope they take it off.
They take it off.
Yes,
because that would solve a lot of it.
Yes.
Now the other one is a very tricky part, and I saw somebody who does a lot of analysis, and he pulled off the EPRA, the Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority, price list for August to September with fuel subsidy. Turns out that a litre was 215 shillings. Then the first decision that President Dr. William Ruto had to make was, after being sworn in, immediately after, he had to make a decision about fuel prices. Took away the subsidies, went down to 177. That's petrol with no subsidy. But previously I think we were doing 156 on that region. But how then do we sustain this? And because we import all of our petroleum, and we can see the shilling is taking a hit globally. The dollar is gaining strength, unusually.
Yes. I think from where I come from, I don't know, I could be wrong. We need to make a very difficult decision, because this is something which we have to decide. We have oil in Turkana. However much the oil, they might say, is not very viable. I think it's high time we did the pipeline, and we did even a small refinery. We could do away with all this foreign exchange, because oil is the one major thing we import which takes a lot of our foreign exchange. If we can be able to cut that down, by setting up a small refinery, you could be able to deal with some of the. I don't think a refinery can cost 500 billion. It can't. Even the pipeline combined.
Actually, the challenge with our oil, and this, at least we learned from a former PS of energy, is that our oil is not a liquid.
It's not liquid. It's solid in the room temperature.
Yeah, it looks like kiwi. It looks like shoe polish.
It looks like
so transporting it is energy intensive.
It is, but then what choice do you have? Because the kind of money we are giving out is way more than what we could use to actually heat it up and put it in a pipeline and actually be able to refine it and be able to use it for Kenyan local use. But I mean, that is the same thing. Our oil is the same as the Ugandans. I did a lot of research on the Ugandan oil, and they are actually doing that. They are setting up a pipeline. They are actually setting up a refinery. So it's not something which we are saying which has not happened. It's already happening in Uganda. And it's high time, as Kenyans, we also did that. That not being the case, we can also combine as a region. We have a lot of oil in, the Sudanese oil is movable and is one which is liquid. We can be able to set up the pipeline. Remember, there used to be plants. If we can be able to set up such things and combine with
actually,
the
that is LAPSET.
Yes, if we do LAPSET, some of these challenges, I told you some of the economic problems you're suffering is because of the decisions, political decisions we've made before. If we could be having LAPSET up and running right now, we could not be having some of these challenges. And remember, by having a pipeline transport oil from a different country, we'll be having a lot of foreign exchange coming in because we'll be charging them for every liter of oil which passes.
Rent.
We'll be receiving rent and also be using the same our oil at the same time and even refining them for them and exporting to them. Those are the kind of things we need to look at, because where our economy is, we can't be able to move it to the next level without making key decisions. And some of the key decisions is actually ensuring the LAPSET is up and running, ensuring we have the nuclear power plant up and running, ensuring that the irrigation is up and running, because that's the future of Kenya. And we are hitting 2030 in a few years' time, and some of these projects have not kicked off. The Concert City is still our white elephant, which is also supposed to be bringing another stream of revenue.
Actually, it's interesting that last week the South Korean government is involved directly with them.
Yes. So there are a lot of people who are supposed to be setting up things. I think the Indians are supposed to set up an hospital. These are people who should have been encouraged to come and put up. The Koreans are supposed to do the technology university for masters and such things. They should have been encouraged to set up that. We should be by now even having a dual to Nakuru and Mombasa, but we don't have these things. So some of these things are what is making us. We will be here in 2027 again, still crying over the same issues.
Very interesting that you mentioned about a large highway towards Mombasa, because one of the hugest American towns got scared of touching that project, Bechtel. If Bechtel back off from something, then there is somebody who really gave them a shock of their lives.
Of course.
Yeah. Advocate Gibson Gisore, he is a constitutional lawyer and political analyst, and we're talking about the Azimio nationwide protest. And we've had updates from the Central Business District and also from Kisumu. So let's find out what the situation is in Mombasa, because also Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is receiving grain from the World Food Program, and this is at the Kilindini Harbour. June Karisa is our reporter there, so we shall be joining up at the port of Mombasa to get that story. And also KDF employment happening at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. Yusuf Farah is our reporter on the ground. So the rest of the team will be keeping us updated as they happen, and also a look at what's happening around the Kilimani area. That's around State House and all of that. Regina Manyara is our reporter, and she's going to be giving us an update on the situation there. We take a short break, and we'll be back and continue with News Check this morning.
Hey, listen up.
Hello everyone and welcome to Engine.
How do we hear? How do we see? What makes up the air we breathe?
Let's go.
It's technology.
Let's grow.
Science, you and me.
Let's go.
We're learning every day.
Let's grow.
Let's ask, let's learn, and let's love.
And don't forget to make it fun.
Jenny?
Yeah?
I need to talk to you now.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't your fault. And sooner or later, I'd beg you to come back.
She knows everything?
Mm-hmm. She knows you helped her.
What I mean is, does she know you're pretending to be her? Don't worry. Since I promised you, I will keep it a secret for you.
I've noticed that most people don't care about printed media anymore. They prefer new media and also social networking.
But we already have. Hey, what's wrong, Charlie? Hey!
Yakadambea werarkan.
Mimi sijui. Nimesikia tu fununu kwamba hii Seldigan by usiku haitakuwepo.
Sikiza. Na nikamdosia nikasirika kwa vita tumekaza mguu kidogo, sawa?
Ibuchi kamera za border crossing point zote sahi.
Ati?
Kamera za border crossing point zote sahi.
Tumechezwa. Roll out! Move!
Huyu jamaa unaona kiwa credible kweli?
Tuta find out soon.
Nini mbaya na wewe?
Wewe ndio unanifanya kabisa ni Fred because the way you remind me of my mama. Maya.
Niangalia na hiyo macho yako ukaona ni kama hakuna mtu umeona.
Sasa unakuja hapa hata utoangi tip na saa yote ni deni hata ulijua kitu inaitwa buffet.
Naijua. Buffet chini hii watu wazee wanajibunika nayo. Hii inakaa kama blanketi ni nono kidogo.
Niko chini ya miti mali. Kuna miti niko chini yake ya green. Niache upusi.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
And welcome back to News Check this Monday morning, and it's a day where the country is tense. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition are saying they are holding nationwide protests, and this is to do with the cost of living, they are protesting about the decisions made about the election of President William Ruto. They are protesting about the procedure being used to hire new IBC commissioners. And so they plan to hold demonstrations, but the police have said those things are illegal. So our teams are out there. And just to have a feel of what it looks like in the capital, let's join Regina Manyara, who is at State House Road, and she is going to update us on the situation around that place, because the Azimio coalition have said that this is one of the places where they'd like to deliver their petition.
Good morning, Wahome. We are coming to you live from Dennis Street. This is exactly 450 meters away from State House. What we can tell you is that it is relatively calm. We've not seen any protesters up to this point, but it is heavily guarded with a contingent drawn from Kenya Police, and we can see even from what they are carrying in as far as their outfits as well as their ammunition. They have the baton. They also have tear gas with them, just in the event that there is need to launch that, they are ready. But talking about protesters who have mapped out this as one of the areas that they're going to be walking to during this particular protest, is that they cannot access State House via processional lane that is totally barricaded. The only way they could actually get to State House, where we are right now, is either driving through Kenyatta Avenue, Valley Road, all the way to Dennis Street, or even approach State House from either Kilimani or Halingam. What you can see is also just a little bit of traffic, Kenyans going about their daily routine, so to speak, using this particular route. However, no one is allowed to drive down processional lane. They are totally barricaded, and the police here have told us that they are ready for any eventuality. The State House area is actually a protected area, so we're expecting to see less chaos, unlike what is happening within the central business district. While driving here, we actually saw a lot of chaos, chase between the police as well as protesters there, especially around the Globe roundabout. But this is not the scene here. As you can see, Wahome, it's relatively calm. We do not expect chaos or drama, but it may be too early to call that a particular move. We're going to move from this particular place where we are 400 meters from State House and go to Arboretum to just check the security situation there. That is one of the routes these protesters are likely to use, since the processional lane is totally barricaded.
Thank you, Regina, for giving us that update from Dennis Street Road, 450 meters from State House. And, that area, it's a protected area. And let me just read verbatim from the statement that was issued by the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior National Administration, Professor Kindiki, yesterday. Bullet 9 on his notice was, "It is hereby notified for information of the general public that pursuant to the Protected Areas Act," that's chapter 204 of the laws of Kenya, "security agencies shall prevent unauthorized access to all protected areas." And let me come to Gibson around who is with us in studio. Gibson Gesora, he's an advocate of the High Court and also does this analysis of politics. Is where do we draw the line about places we go to? It is always say, what's the old saying? You don't try and throw stones at a police station.
At a police station, yes. Sirusha mawe kwa polisi. So, I mean, Kiture is right, because that is his job he's doing, but the demonstrators feel that their grievances can only be listened to, or they can look like they are serious if they be able to make their way to State House or wherever the president is, because they also indicated that if it's not a State House, we will follow him wherever he is. If it's
there are many state lodges, so they might be surprised.
He's in Sagana or somewhere. I don't know whether they will follow him there. But the law is very clear, because we also need to the president is duly sworn in. So there is every reason to have some respect to the residency where he stays, that is the State House. You cannot have people flocking there wherever they want and present petitions. Because, I mean, that is a sign of, you never know, because the same demonstrators or their leaders have said they do not recognize the person who is in State House. So you can only be apprehensive that if these people make their way up to the boundaries or the fence of they can actually break in, and that will be cause of anarchy. And that's what we don't want, because we might end up having people being shot. So the Kithure Kindiki warning that we will be able to protect these protected areas is actually trying to avert a bigger crisis which might likely to happen. And of course the Azimio people want to poke their fingers into the nose of the government and tell them that, you know, we can come and scare you. And of course that's not going to be good. When two bulls fight, the grass is what is going to suffer, and people are likely to be shot or people are likely to lose lives. We better not. I will urge the Azimio that they need to protest. They can present their petitions wherever it is, that because that's a constitutional right, but they do it peacefully and they don't need to go to State House.
Yeah, and one of the other things that, you know, they're protesting about is the IBC panel, because it was constituted by the president, and this is to pick a new commission. You know, it's interesting that we don't have a constituted commission.
Yes.
We can't have a by-election. That's implication.
Yes, we can't.
So, look at what is the way, to use what I would call exercise, the powers that were given to him, the elections, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act of 2011, and the people who are involved, we've got the Public Service Commission, the Law Society of Kenya, the Interreligious Council, and the Political Parties Liaison Committee. Is that, how should we hold on to, you know, view this vis-a-vis what Right Honorable Raila is talking about?
I think whatever you have read, that the provisions of the law, that is very clear, because that is what the law anticipates in the process of coming up with the people who select the panel of the people who are going to be commissioners of the IBC. Now the challenge comes in when Raila and his Azimio people feel that they've not been fully involved, and they want in some way to be consulted.
Political parties?
Yes, that is where the challenge comes in, and the government feels we have done what the law requires us to do. Where again will we be setting that aside and then be coming to you under which law to actually consult you? Because you have members of parliament who are going to end up actually doing the vetting. If you have any challenge, you can be able to raise this objection, because there are checks and balances. But according to him, because it's about election, and election being an emotive thing, he feels like that is not proper, and the government wants to take advantage of this particular chance and be able to put people or cronies who are going to help them win an election in 2027. Well, it could be true, it could not be true, but then how we are supposed to go about this is where the challenge is, because now there's also no other avenue to also bring this the opposition on board, because they can only be able to act substantively from parliament, because whatever the law that there is in the land that ensures that the process is followed has already been followed. So this other one is just a political noise trying to cause a lot of heat and tension, which of course at the end of the day is also leading to part of the reasons why they are doing the Maandamano today.
Okay, and I mean, at the moment then, if need be, there is need for an election, I think they need at least a by-election of any form, yes. even for an MCA. How would the IBC now go about this? Because I think they would need 3 commissioners, but I think at the moment only the CEO, who sits on the commission, who now becomes a member of the board as the secretary to the secretary of the commission. How would they work? Because we know Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi, and Justus Nyang'aya opted to quit. Irene Masit faced the Justice Muchelule Tribunal, and she had to leave. The other three, their terms expired.
It's interesting enough that I listened to Raila Odinga in an interview. He was saying that as much as they resigned, the Gerera 4 resigned, they can be reinstated. You know, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting that whoever has deemed that he's not fit to be in office or has decided to quit public office can be reinstated because he was not properly, somebody feels that he did not properly resign, or he ought not to have resigned. I think the best thing where
we stand... the wrong color of ink to sign their resignation letters.
Yes. Yeah, that could be the other reason. I think where we stand is we need to be very objective and be very clear in what we are doing. The process has kicked off. We had issues around the commissioners. Those issues, a tribunal was formed. It has looked into those issues. It has come up with a report. Nobody has challenged that report in court. So the clear process is for Raila Odinga to actually follow through the process, unless he doesn't also believe in the court process. And then, of course, now we have highlighted to the issue that we might have an MCA or an MP by election. Some few have been declared, unless they are going to appeal, and that's going to take some time. We need to have the commissioners in place. And I think he needs to rally his troops and ensure that the people who are going to be shortlisted, we get the right people. That is the best service he can do to Kenyans.
Well, we're speaking about this, and it's basically the state of the nation. Where are we? And a conversation that usually comes up anytime you talk about the state of the nation, the economy, is graft.
Yes.
Corruption. And what has been referred, there are different terms that come with it. Greed. Then we invented the word tenderpreneurship, where you basically make money from tenders, but you say, just trying to but claim to be an entrepreneur. How much needs to be done to roll back on graft? We've had strange stories of a bus of being bought for 3,500 shillings.
Yes. I think there's a lot which needs to be done as a country. That is our Achilles heel, which we need to look into, because if we were to roll back on state graft, we could actually not be able to need any loans from outside. We could be having sufficient money to take our kids to school, to have medicine in our schools, to do roads without asking for these other loans to fund our projects. Because as we stand 60 years, almost 60 years from the time we were independent, we cannot be able to fund our own education. That is quite a pity. We cannot be able to do our own roads. And virtually we cannot be able to feed our own population. So that is quite appalling, and what we need to do is to ensure that this corruption is actually limited or is actually eliminated, so that we can be able to focus or have whatever is collected from Kenyans serve Kenyans, and that is the best way we can be able to move forward. The best way is to actually have a leadership which is very keen and focused in dealing with some of these tenderpreneurs and looters.
Okay, we'll be talking more about that and corruption, and also, Kenya as a country, have we decided to glorify bad manners? And at what point do we avoid trying to legislate on morality? We'll be coming back to that, but right now let's go over to Mombasa. Our reporter is Michael Mwandiga. He gives us an update on the situation in Mombasa, and this is as far as what the people are going to talk about when it comes to the protest. Kuna maandamano, hakuna maandamano? Over to you, Mwandiga.
Well, Wahome, a very good morning to you. Of course, we're coming to you live from Mombasa County. Since morning, we have enjoyed a relative calm here in Mombasa. Everything is calm, no fracas, no demos, everything is okay, and businesses are up as usual in Mombasa County. Everyone is just on his or her own business. Nothing to be worried about in Mombasa County. And where I'm standing right behind me, as my cameraman could show you, you. These are the head offices of Mombasa County Administration. It's business as usual here. Everyone carrying on his or her own business as usual. There's nothing to worry about. And just right over where my cameraman will just pan across, it's just the highway leading to the Mombasa State House, and everything is just calm. There's nothing to worry about. Everyone carrying on with his or her daily business as usual. And what I've looked across as we are doing some spot check in the CBD, business is as usual. Policemen are there manning the traffic as usual, and there's nothing to worry about. Mombasa is just calm, and we're expecting that this will carry on for the rest of the day. Wahome, there's nothing to worry about. But as from this point, I'll be doing a spot check also in other areas in the CBD and the vicinities of Mombasa County, just to bring you up to speed on what will be happening or what will be transpiring. But as for now, there's nothing to worry about. Mombasa is just a calm. Wahome.
Thank you very much, Michael Mwandiga, giving us a report from Mombasa. And Gibson, you know, it's we haven't. I think the religious leadership of Mombasa did speak, and some of the things, though, I mean, I've heard them say. You know, they say daya maandamano yataleta mvua. Kiangazi kitaondolewa. They have a way of speaking, and so what would be the? How would you assess the story of Mombasa at the moment?
The story of Mombasa, I think, is an interesting one, because the people in Mombasa, of course, we could attribute to, of course, they have largely been in opposition, but we have seen them move towards government in the latter years. So, but then again, you know, Mombasa people also wake up late. So they tend to do their things in a slow move. So let's hope that by around 1 is when you can successfully be able to determine whether they were actually part of the mandamano or not.
Anyway, we'll keep tabs on that, and I don't think they would want to do mandamano. The deputy president is at the port of Mombasa and it's grain that's coming in that's meant to put a cushion to what has been called the food shortage. But I'd like to come back to a conversation that we had with Gibson, and this was about graft and the culture here. We tend to glorify what I would call bad manners. Yes. How do we change this? Because if we like they say, ndio tumemchagua ni mwizi lakini huo mwizi ni wetu.
Yes.
How do we put an end to that?
It's very simple. You see, it needs, as I was saying, it needs a serious leadership. It starts from the top. If a president who takes power can be able to move quickly and be able to tame graft within his ministries fast, or if the ministers also stand firm and say that there's no graft which is going to happen in their ministries, there will be no graft. If we can be able to arrest some few people and be able to throw them inside. You see, from the last time we had the discussion on graft is when Uhuru released a list of, I don't know, was it 150 people?
It was 250, actually, there were over 250 cases.
Up to now, none among those people has ever been...
actually, there is one who was it 180 million shillings in fines?
Yes, but fines.
You know, that had to do with, I think, the youth fund.
The youth fund or something. And there was also the people about sports, I think, the Rio sports. Mm-hmm. Yes, but you know, those are the small fees. The list had a lot of people. Can we be able to see concrete steps in terms of prosecuting these people and actually putting people behind bars? If we can be able to, because much as we can also have, these people do appeal, and when they go to appeal, they are acquitted, or they are given some lighter fines, which they pay off and they go home. but still the money is lost. So if we can be able to have a leadership which can be able to put concrete steps and ensure that nobody steals public resources, then we can be able to ensure. The other issue is when government people are also involved in business, then there is likelihood of pilfering of state resources. So if we can be able to look into this issue, ensure that the public people are paid well, to a level that they cannot be able to engage in business, because they only engage in business because they need to supplement whatever their needs are, because whatever they are paid is not good enough. So if we can also be able to get competent people who are in office, who understand where they hold that they hold those particular offices in trust for an inch, then, because the problem is once somebody gets into an office in this republic, they tend to think that they have gotten to that office to serve themselves or to serve the interests of the people who have put them, instead of serving Kenyans. You find that they become aloof, they leave their code there, they go to sports clubs, they go to have tea with the rich people, with the entrepreneurs, and forget that the work is actually to sit in the office and serve the ordinary Kenyans who come there or visit there for services. So when we can be able to do away with some of these very small bad manners, we can be able to ensure that services go across the country and then resources are well protected.
Well, yeah. Wakili Gisore giving us an update. That and the pictures you're seeing are on Ngong Road, and Regina Manyara is there. I know we'll be getting an update from her. And we could also see from the pictures, the police officers are saying, we do not want to appear here, but you can see that there is a very little that is happening, and there are some people who have been arrested, because yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior made a clear statement that those who break the law will be arrested, or anybody who incites public disorder and otherwise breaches peace in the Republic of Kenya shall be prosecuted. That is to say, that is what is there. And also, there is the protection of that. So if you are breaking the law, then here you are, you're going to get arrested. And that's the story that's going on there, as we can see that there are different, some of the journalists, some of them dressed with protective gear on. They've got Kevlar, they've got helmets, and they can see those people who've been arrested. And you can see there's a continued plea by the police officers, please usituweke kwa picha, pan away, and that's why you can see that our camera person has had to do that. That's the best way. Ideally at the moment, it's not good to argue with any police officer. So that is the situation at Ngong Road. And you can see that there are protesters, a shot of them, and that is just across Kibra. So they have been stopped and they're trying to make their way around. So those are the live pictures from Ngong Road. Those are the protesters who have trying to make their way onto Ngong Road, and Kibra is known to be one of the places where Azimio leader, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has got support, and he has been, and he has represented the area before it was split into Langata and Kibra constituencies. He was MP for Langata for 30 years, for 20 years. So you've got to count on him that this is where he was before he ran for the presidency in 2013. And with the 2010 constitution, if you ran for the presidency, then you cannot run for any other elective office. The presidency has been separated from the legislature. So that is it. So we shall be keeping up with that. And right now, let's move over to the Ulinzi Sports Complex, and it is about KDF employment. Let us join in and hear from the General Kibochi, who is the Chief of Defense Forces. So let's move over to the Ulinzi Sports Complex and catch up with that story.
This particular event, Major General Arthur Kubo, he is our head of the directorate that deals with personnel and logistics. So anything about personnel, whether we are dealing with the soldiers, whether we are dealing with a family. He is in charge of this particular area, which is very, very critical. The Executive Director of Family Bank Foundation, Mr. John Waimiri, the participants of this fast forward, good morning. Muko sawa? You ready? It is indeed a pleasure to have been chosen to host this particular event, the very first one in the Kenya Defence Forces. And it speaks to a lot of things that are very important and linked to the mission of the Kenya Defence Forces. Because us here, as leaders of the Kenya Defence Forces, have got only two tasks to do. One is to accomplish the mission as given by the Commander-in-Chief. And that we do all the time. The second one is to attend to the welfare of not only the soldiers, but also the family. And yours is a family-centric bank. And we are also very family-centric in terms of the welfare. So there is convergence here, which I think bringing together family bank and the family-centric approach that we have in terms of welfare is a great thing. Secondly is to get the MWAC leadership and the team that have just completed 2 years this last Saturday, and to see them filling the gap that is very, very important of focusing on the family. It is very easy for me to focus on the soldier because he fights, and therefore I need to make sure that his welfare is great. And it's very easy to forget the family. And therefore, we are very grateful that these ladies 2 years ago came together and decided to establish themselves within the MWAC environment to look at the family. And this, within the last 2 years, I've been the Chief of Defence Forces. I've immensely benefited from their counsel, from their advice, from the ability to see around the corners and to listen to the soldier also, to listen to the family. There are things that the soldiers cannot tell us, obviously, because military is a very hierarchical thing. And when they go talking to them in their various bases, they are able to open up. And I'm glad to know that they've had a visit to every base in the Kenya Defence Forces within those 2 years. And therefore, anything that comes from them, we take it very seriously. So we are very grateful for this partnership that has brought together these two institutions, MWAC and Family Bank, and also the Kenya Defence Forces. It has been said very well that the demand for skills, especially skilled labor in this country, is very high. And looking at these young men and girls who are here, who have recently...
That is Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, General Robert Kibuchi. He is speaking at the Ulinzi Sports Complex, and this is at a function where 100 dependents of Kenya Defence Forces servicemen aged 18 to 25 are to benefit from a partnership between the Family Group Foundation and the Kenya Defence Forces Military Wives Association of Kenya. And this is through the Tufuzu Youth Entrepreneurship Development Project, and they will be trained in TVET skills. Yusuf Farah is our reporter out there, and he's going to be giving us that report. And it's a Monday where the one conversation is all about the word that is going around, that's being used, is mandamano. And you can see that a lot of police officers have been deployed. You can see that already there is a vehicle with a water cannon that is in place to ensure that particular places, basically, are secured. Protesters who may turn violent are not allowed. We have seen, for example, in Mombasa, that life is going on as normal. nothing. Nobody's businesses haven't been closed down, but they've said that they will continue with their life as normal. So that is the situation that everyone's talking about. We've seen this is Kibra, and this is at the place which is known as Kwadio. So that is that is the situation. So protesters trying to make their way onto Ngong Road. Much of Ngong Road has been sealed off and cordoned off. So people should not be doing there. Kisumu, we've seen some people burning tires, but but for most of the people, it's all about their safety, which they are really, really concerned about. That's why we haven't seen much traffic in Nairobi around the roads there. And what people want to do is to make sure that they have it safe. So our reporters in Mombasa, we've got Michael Mwandiga. In Kisumu is weekly for Catch. In the Central Business District, Beatrice Gatonye. And police deployment is Ben Chumba. And also we've got Kevin Washira. So they are focused on that. And let's now continue, with our conversation here with Advocate Gibson Gisore. And for some of what has been said, some of the things that have been said, and this is especially coming in from the political leadership. In Parliament, they can say we are protected, but there is this statement that was made where somebody went and said, if you pass by somewhere and you see that there's a government meeting, go have lunch. And that was after the ugly incident in Kisumu.
Yes.
How much, how do we prove that this is, at the end of it all, not a violent event? Because what happened in Kisumu was regrettable.
Yes. That is what I think we need to be careful as Kenyans, that if you are going to be doing your hotel and it's in the streets, kindly ensure that you are protected.
We can't put up fences everywhere.
Either you close so that the demonstrators go, unless they're going to have free lunch at your hotel. So, normally, these demonstrations, I think I watched Malema warn people that we are not telling you to do your business, but stay warned that if you are going to bring your vehicle into the streets, it's for transporting the demonstrators. If you are going to open your hotel, it will be for people who are demonstrating to eat. So that is, I think, what we call in law fair warning, that you have indeed been warned, so that whatever it is that you do with the information is up to you. Because when demonstrations do happen, you cannot be able to control. Not everybody who comes to demonstrations comes with good intentions. And that's why the police are there to ensure that such things do not happen. And in the process of doing that, they need to avert people who want to take advantage or to be able to stray and destroy people's property or beat other people, to be stopped from doing that.
Well, actually, I was just taking a look at some of the pictures, and you can tell the tension. And eventually, we have seen some of these things happen before. The protests, especially when, I think it was in 2017, when ODM, they would lead the protests. And it was said, it was said that it really had an effect on the businesses. We'll be coming to that. But right now, let's move over to Ngong Road. And our reporter is Ben Chumba. He can give us an update on the situation at that road, because we know the area around Kibra is a bit closed off, and I had seen earlier that the area just close to the Kenyatta National Hospital was a tricky place to navigate. Ben Chumba, give us an update on what's happening at Ngong Road.
Asante sana mwenzangu Wahome, haujakosea kwamba kweli nimekita kambi katika eneo la Ngong hapa Nairobi kujaribu kutathmini tu na kueleza watazamaji jinsi hali ilivyo katika eneo la Ngong Road, hasa ikizingatia kwamba hii ni ile siku ambayo muungano wa Azimio la Umoja waliweza kusema kwamba wataandaa maandamano katika maeneo mbalimbali humu nchini kushinikiza serikali katika hoja mbalimbali. Tumeweza kupiga doria na kuweza kuzunguka katika eneo la Ngong Road takriban zaidi ya saa moja iliyopita ili kuweza kutaka kujua hali ni namna gani, na tunaweza kuripoti kwamba kinyume na baadhi ya maeneo ya hapa Nairobi kama vile katikati mwa mji wa Nairobi, maeneo ya Kibra ambapo tumeweza labda kushuhudia makabiliano kati ya waandamanaji pamoja na maafisa wa usalama ambao pia hata wameonekana wakitumia vitoza machozi. Katika eneo la Ngong Road mambo ni tofauti. Hapa shughuli zinaonekana kuwa tu za kawaida. Wenyeji hapa wanaonekana kushughulika tu na vibarua ama kazi yao ya kila siku, na tumeweza kuzungumza tu na baadhi ya wenyeji hapa ambao wanasema kwamba wao kwa kawaida tu wameweza kufika na kuweza kufungua biashara zao na kutaka kuona tu kwamba siku inaendelea kama walivyokuwa wanasubiri. Na jambo tu ambalo labda tumeweza kushuhudia tu katika eneo hili ni kwamba tumeona maafisa wa polisi wakiwa wanapiga doria. Wapo ndio, lakini hawapo katika maeneo haya sana. Utawaona tu labda kwa takriban saa moja ambayo tumekuwa hapa, tumeona tu maafisa wa polisi wakiwa wamepiga doria mara moja. Kwa hivyo hapa ni shughuli tu zinaendelea tu hapa katika eneo la Ngong Road. Hawajaweza kuadhirika sana na ili suala la maandamano, lakini bado utapata kwamba kuna baadhi ya wanabiashara ambao waliweza kuamua kufunga duka zao kwa sababu tu ya uoga kwamba labda wale waandamanaji wangeweza kupora bidhaa zao na kuharibu biashara. Kwa hivyo kutokana tu na ile uoga wao labda wakaonelea wafunge biashara zao, lakini kwa wale ambao wamefungua biashara zao tunaona tu wanaendelea vizuri na biashara zao licha ya maandamano hayo kufanyika katika baadhi ya maeneo hapa Nairobi. Na labda tu nikufahamishe kwamba eneo hili la Ngong Road mara nyingi ni eneo ambalo huwa kuna msongamano wa magari kwa mara, lakini mambo ni kinyume leo kwa sababu utapata barabara si kama kawaida, kwa sababu nadhani hii labda tu ni kutokana na ile kuwepo kwa watumiaji wa barabara wachache. Mara nyingi eneo hili la Ngong Road kuna msongamano wa magari, lakini tunapoona mambo ni kinyume leo, magari ni chache na barabara ni wazi tu, labda tu isipokuwa wananchi wachache ambao labda wameweza kuenda katika shughuli zao, lakini kwa jumla eneo la Ngong Road shughuli tu ni sawa, hali ya usalama ni sawa. Hatujaweza kuona shughuli yoyote ama hatujaweza kuona makabiliano yoyote kati ya maafisa wa polisi ama hata waandamanaji ambao wameweza kusema kwamba wanafanya maandamano katika eneo la Ngong Road. Kwa hivyo labda tu kuarifu watazamaji wetu ni kwamba tutazidi tu kukita kambi katika eneo hili la Ngong Road. Hapo baadaye tutaweza kuwaeleza watazamaji wetu jinsi mambo yatakavyokuwa yametukia hapa Ngong Road. Kwako studio.
Shukran sana. Ben Chumba is our reporter. He is at Ngong Road, and that is near the race course. That's Dagoretti Corner, and that's where he's been giving us a report. Quite interesting. Just 3 kilometers down the road, the protesters there are taunting the police, and the restraint from the boys in blue is huge. And at times, whatever they trying to put barricades so that they can do this, that's it. So right now we've got Regina Manyara, who is at Kibra. And Regina, you could just give us an update on what's going on out there.
Wahome, what you're seeing, these are live pictures from the intersection on Ngong Road to Kibra, and you can see the crowds are preparing to charge, just as the contingent of security officers are also preparing to charge. Things are getting a bit, chaotic, so to speak. As you can see, they are trying to barricade the road. Earlier we saw a civilian trying to intervene and ask the protesters not to hurl projectile stones and other crude weapons at the police. It has intensified. There's a lot of tear gas, and allow us not to be on shot. But as you can see, they're preparing to now deploy some tear gas, and also some, we understand it's pepper water from the truck to just try and quell the crowd that has been having, or rather they've been holding a standoff between the security and them. As you can see, we're trying to remain safe so that, there you go. That's a charge live. They're charging into the crowd. But it seems that even the armored truck in itself with the debris and the stone, it can only go so far. But we're waiting to see what is going to happen. Maybe this is going to be the last charge that is going to dissuade the protesters from continuing with this particular protest from this point. This is DC. We understand this, they refer to it as DC, an intersection from Kibra leading to Ngong Road. These are just live pictures. The media is here.
All right. Thank you very much, Regina. I know it's a tense place and we can see them going back. Nobody really wants to be in the path of that water cannon. I don't think anybody would like to come into contact with that water cannon, and if they're going to pepper spray you. It's not something that anybody would like. So as we continue with this conversation and how to get this back, we're with Gibson Gisore, he's an advocate of the High Court. And Wakili, one of the things that I've seen is, yesterday there was a group of religious leaders, actually different groups, who spoke up against this. The Islamic leadership did speak last week, and yesterday the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, they did release a statement, but there is something that you can see, just from the pictures in Kibra, that everyone doesn't want. And let me just read from it. We've had such peaceful elections last year. Further, in spite of great provocation, we kept the peace after the Supreme Court decision on the appeal on presidential elections. This was demonstrated as Kenyans voted peacefully. Gibson will be coming that, but let's go to the port of Mombasa. And this is where Deputy President Gachagua is, and he is going to be receiving some consignment of food that has come in. Over to the Kenya Ports Authority, where the KPMD is speaking.
Collaboration in future. Thank you, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain William Ruto, the Managing Director of Kenya Ports Authority, who has also taken us through a tour of the port. Your Excellency, sir, at this juncture, I wish to invite Cabinet Secretary, East Africa, Arid and Semi-Arid Lands to take us through the next session, where she'll be coordinating and inviting our development partners on this session on food security. Madam CS.
As you can see, for sure, I'm not Madam Yano. Your Excellency, the Deputy President, the Cabinet Secretary colleagues who are here, Excellency Ambassadors, the Director of the World Food Program, the management of KPA led by the board and the CEO, and all the distinguished guests who are here. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. When we are in Mombasa here, because the heat is too much, we always think that it's an afternoon. Every time it's afternoon. First of all, Your Excellency, CS Miano has given me this opportunity to just make a few remarks, to say welcome to the port. Captain William Ruto has made all the remarks we needed to hear about what we are doing here at the port. And Your Excellency, I know we have another function in the afternoon where I'll make a few remarks concerning a few things that we're also doing here. Mine, on behalf of my colleagues, to just say you're welcome to the port. Congratulations to the new MD and the new board members, and congratulations to Grain Bulk GBHL, Grain Bulk Handlers Limited. I don't want to be like Mustafa, who cannot say Kashakwa and who cannot mention the name of the Deputy President, for the work you are doing here. Our job here is to make sure, Your Excellency, we make this port very efficient and very friendly to investors like GBHL, so that they can be able to make our work here and our clearance of goods become fast. I want to thank our development partners for partnering with us at this very critical time in our country. When I stood there, two things were running through my mind. On one part, I was very happy that there is food for us to go and distribute to the people who are needy. On the other side, I was very sad that 60 years after independence, we still need that kind of support for us to feed our own people. And I believe, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, your government, with President William Ruto, is going to put to an end this type of approach, so that our partnership with our development partners will be based on win-win partnership of investment, like in the port and other areas. We will have sorted the basic things about food and our country. Asante sana and welcome to the port. Thank you very much. And thank you, CS Rebecca, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you. It's now my greatest honor and pleasure to welcome the CS of East Africa and ASAL, Honorable Rebecca Miano. Please, a round of applause to welcome the very gracious lady and my senior in the legal profession.
Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, my cabinet colleagues, the PSs who are here, Excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to witness development partner support for the food security in Kenya. We are today receiving grain from Ukraine, put together by about 8 or so countries, and also to receive sorghum from USAID. And in this regard, I want to acknowledge the presence of Ambassador of the United States of America, Her Excellency Ambassador Meg Whitman, the Ambassador of Ukraine, who is here with us, Ambassador Andril. We have the High Commission of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Her Excellency Jane Marriott. The Ambassador of the Kingdom of Norway is here also. Ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium is here. Ambassador of the Italian Republic.
That is the Cabinet Secretary, East African Affairs and ASAL's Cabinet Secretary, Rebecca Miano, who is speaking at the port of Mombasa. And the event that is going on at the moment is grain handover, where the Bill Emerson Humanitarian Trust have brought in grain, and this is to be distributed all around the country, and this is through the World Food Program, and it's at the Grain Bulk Handlers Limited berth. So that's where the grain is being received by Deputy President, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. We shall be joining up with our team in Mombasa when the Deputy President is making his remarks. Now, let's close, this conversation. There is a whole story about the word in the mouths of very many Kenyans today is maandamano. And we're with Wakili Gibson Kisore here. And just before we went over to Mombasa, I was referring to a statement released by the Catholic bishops yesterday. Peaceful elections, even after, provocation around the Supreme Court. So Kenyans, basically, the bishops are asking, Kenyans must refuse to be lured into the past politics of confrontation, violence, and seeking what they quoted as justice by looting and destruction of property. And they must reject this venom of hatred that is becoming commonplace in our politicians' mouths. Sisi watu wa town, we can ignore them. But there is a population that takes what a politician says as gospel truth. How do we get to that population and tell them, look, see what people are saying?
Sensitization. We just need to do a lot of sensitization and ensure that all Kenyans are aware of their rights and actually know what the responsibilities of the politicians are and where to actually listen to a politician, to what level, to what extent. Because sometimes politicians take advantage of the naivety of Kenyans and they want to use them badly. So if Kenyans were to be sensitized in civil issues and how to on what their rights are, the constitution and the provisions of what the leader should be able to do, then they can also be aware of when a politician is trying to make statements which are not in tandem with what it is that they are expecting. And then, of course, I think the biggest issue is poverty. If we can be able to ensure that our people have money in their pockets, they are people of means, then it's not very easy to sway somebody who is well-grounded in the pocket, because some of these politicians just take advantage of passing some small handouts so that they can be able to pull the crowd. If it were not to be the case, then it would be very difficult for them to actually even have a crowd of 10 people. So they know that, and I think some of them have invested in the poverty of the minds and poverty of through means of their people so that they can continue dominating them, which is very unfortunate.
Well, very interesting. I know there's a musician called Issa who once said, navuta more crowds than the Rainbow Alliance.
Yes.
So that means the politicians do have this crowd. And the other one that I want to talk about is we've got the devolved units. We know that, yes, there are challenges with getting the money down there. But how, for example, there are things that functions that are actually devolved to them they should be handling. How did the first transition, affect how things are in different places? Because we know there are some counties which have said we have moved well. Yes. Others actually suffered.
Yes.
It was retrogression.
Yes. I think there was a very big disconnect in terms of us moving from the former municipal towns and the councils to what it is now that we have the devolved units, that is the counties. A lot of mismanagement did happen, and then we also ended up having a crop of politicians who ended up taking a big office, and they did not understand the politics or the economics of running counties, so they ended up wasting the entire time and doing politics as usual. Some of them who actually got into office and they knew what they wanted to do, they did a couple of things, and we can see the changes, and their people are rejoicing. For example, I think one of the examples I would like to quote is Makueni. Makueni did a good job. I am sure the people of Makueni, much as not all of them will be happy, but at least they can be able to point out something which they never used to have, which they have. Maybe it's the business of trade they are engaging in selling their mangoes. They can be able to sell them to their factories. And tomatoes, or even the milk, which they didn't have a KCC, now they do. So those are some of the tangible things you can be able to allocate to the people of Kisumu. Could also allocate the aspect of a clean town and business coming in, tourists coming in to devolution. I don't know what people of the county of Nyamira can be able to speak where I come from, because there is largely nothing which you can be able to allocate to a county government. previous or the current, and those are some of the issues which we need to look at, whereby a lot of resources have gone down to the counties, but you cannot be able to see those resources being utilized. And it's very unfortunate. If government could be more proactive in terms of checks and balances to ensure that some of these resources, which they don't end up in people's pockets, some of these resources, especially in the upcountry counties, they end up going to the ground and then immediately they come back to Nairobi to do flats in Kitengela and Rongai, which is quite unfortunate. So instead of us seeing the development on the ground or helping people have medicines, have good roads, have bridges, it comes back to Nairobi to benefit the people of Nairobi in terms of good houses which have been built by the said CEOs of the counties. If some of these things could be checked, because this is now disproportionate development, which we can be able to ensure that if these monies are actually used in the areas which they are supposed to be used, then there can be change.
Now, there's something about this protest as we close. How do you address the person in the rural area? I'm just trying to think about my people in my home village doing a maandamano. It just can't work.
It can't.
This is an urban phenomenon.
Yes.
How just do we, manage this as we close? Because it's the only place you want.
Yes, it's only the towns, because the people in the towns get affected more than the local people. The local people, they're involved in farming, involved in terms of taking care of the cows. You cannot leave your cows without food and then you go demonstrating.
No, in fact, it will be worse.
It will go crazy in the neighbor's farm. And you will have serious issues with your neighbor, which you don't want. So the people in towns, especially when you find that they are jobless or they do not have food to eat or they do not have anything meaningful to do, those are the people, they lose chippings which you can actually be able to call to a maandamano, and then they will come. And even the politicians are very clever. They go to the places which are not well-to-do, where they can actually find quite a number of people, a crowd. You will actually realize most of these demonstrations will tend to take some particular streets where these people can be able to access. Hardly will you hear that there's a maandamano in Karen, or people demonstrating around Runda area or Kiambu. Those are places you will never have crowds, because people are busy doing their own things, and nobody will be interested to go into such streets, because you cannot tell somebody to come from Kibera to go to Kiambu Road to go and demonstrate. So some of these issues are cosmopolitan oriented, in that you can be able to pull a crowd, and there are more disgruntled people in the cosmopolitan areas than in the local places.
All right. Thank you very much, Wakili Gibson Gisore, speaking to us this morning, and the word that is all about is maandamano. We shall be keeping you updated on what's happening there. Plus, also remember, there's grain that's being received at the port of Mombasa, and Deputy President, the Honorable Gachagua, is at that event. So, shortly we'll be getting back to Mombasa to listen to the Deputy President speak about this food security matter. My name is Daniel Wahome. Thank you for being with us. Coming up next, Kurunzi Mashinani with Zaina. And after that, it's going to be the interview program, Tamrini. Have a good afternoon.
Jenny?
Yeah?
I need to talk to you now.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't your fault. And sooner or later, I'd beg you to come back.
She knows everything?
Mm-hmm. She knows you helped her.
What I mean is, does she know you're pretending to be her? Don't worry. Since I promised you, I will keep it a secret for you. I've noticed that most people don't care about printed media anymore. They prefer new media and also social networking.
But we already have
Hey, what's wrong, Charlie? Hey!
Nini mbaya na wewe? Wewe ndio unanifanya kabisa nifurahi because the way you remind me of my mama. Maya.
Niangalia na hiyo macho yako ukaona ni kama hakuna mtu umeona.
Sasa unakuja hapa hata utoangi tip na saa yote ni deni hata ni unajua kitu inaitwa buffet.
Naijua. Buffet chini watu wazee wanajibunika nayo. Hii inakaa kama blanketi ni nono kidogo. Niko chini ya miti mali. Kuna miti niko chini yake ya green. Niache upusi.